Yo, people, welcome back to DR Sports for the review of Crystal Palace versus Tottenham. A 4-0 win for Tottenham. Get your comments in because I was watching the game and I'm a little bit surprised at the way the game panned out. I really am. I'm not going to lie to you. It was a little bit of a shock to the system because if you take a look at that first half, Crystal Palace played well. They played well. They created chances. Elise was getting on the ball. He was doing his little roll over the ball, a little bit of 1-2-2 step. Eze was doing up the link-up play as well. They were playing some good stuff, but they did not have the finishing touch, people. Jordan Ayew, you have some questions to answer, my friend, because the shots weren't on point. They were rusty, straight at the goalkeeper. To be fair, Elise as well, taking those shots over the bar, and a few others. And it's a shame for Crystal Palace because they had all of the build-up play in terms of their chance creation, in terms of all of that. But in the end, they didn't have enough. I wasn't actually meant to be on this one, guys. So don't give me any stick, okay? I'm coming in late. This is greatness. I wasn't meant to be on this one. So yeah, let me know what you thought of the first half in the comments down below. They didn't really get Zaha into the game. Zaha had one strike that went really far wide. But he didn't really get into the game. He didn't have a single shot in the first half. He wasn't as involved in terms of, the chance creation as there was going down the right-hand side. And I do believe that he's their best shooter. I do believe that Zaha is their best shooter, their most likely goal scorer on average, and they just couldn't get him involved. And that's a shame, because if they could have actually had taken the advantage in the first half and really actually, got the reward for their hard work. Because they played well. Then we move over to the second, and let's talk about Harry Kane, because this guy is, he was everything for them. And even in the first half, dropping deep, I saw him dropping deep into midfield at times, trying to receive the ball. There was a moment, I think, in the first half where he dropped so far deep into the center circle, then did a little pivot, turned around, tried to progress the ball by, driving through. He almost became a central midfielder. He became like a Bentancur or a Kovacic at that point. He was basically the guy that was trying to progress the ball into the position where he should actually be. He's doing everything. He's doing literally everything for that Tottenham team. And I was saying, as we move on through this game, as we progress, if Crystal Palace are not taking their chances, which they wasn't, Tottenham are maybe going to capitalize. They've got better finishers. Crystal Palace have got the better chance creators, but Tottenham have got the better finishers. And Harry Kane, obviously, he steps up to the plate. Bryan Gill, he needs a mention because his pass for Harry Kane was exceptional, of course, for the second. Perisic, brilliant cross. We know he can cross with both feet. He's the person that gives the assist for the first, but Bryan Gill for the second, you got to give him his flowers for that reverse ball. Very, eye through the needle, as they say. Eye through the needle pass, really, really close quarters, and managed to just slip the ball in between the defenders. I felt like the defending from Crystal Palace in the second half, it was partly a little bit of a capitulation. Yes, Tottenham stepped it up. They ramped it up a little bit. They were a little bit more cutthroat, a little bit more incisive. They moved the ball quicker. Second half, Tottenham strikes again. We've seen it all season. They have been a team that have been a lot better in the second half. There was a statistic that went out that was their first time taking the lead in around 9 games, something like that. 9 games, first time they've taken the lead in so long. Second half, they've always usually, stood up and stepped up their game, and they did that today. And you have to give Bryan Gill credit because, as you're saying in the comments, he is a bit on the lighter side. There's been question marks over his physicality. 11 games, okay. There's been a big question on his physicality, whether or not he's strong enough, to be able to handle the Premier League. But technically, he went out on loan in La Liga last season. He comes into this team today, and obviously in the last game as well. And he just gives you a little bit more creativity, just something different, because we see the Lucas Moura's, they haven't impacted over the years. The Lamellas, now they have Kulusevski out, Richarlison's out. When you look to that Tottenham bench today, there was really nothing there. They had White on the bench, they had Spence on the bench, they had Emerson Royale, they had Sarr, Sessegnon. They didn't have a single striker, not really any creative midfielder that I know of. I don't know, White too well. I think he's 21 years old, maybe from the academy. They didn't have anything. So if the game wasn't going to step up in that second half, you're looking to that bench and you're not really seeing anything that Conte can bring on and really do to change the game. So it was fortunate that he must have managed to say something to them at half time, and of course rally the troops for a proper performance. Earth is saying terrible defending by Palace in the second half. Zaha makes silly mistakes, loses the ball at times. Palace should really sell him in January instead of waiting for him to go on a free in the summer. Do you know what it is with Zaha is that I think we always ask that question, should he make that step up to a bigger club? Should he make that move to a top 6 or a top 7? And it looks like, personally, the ship may have sailed, but of course, he's moving on a free potentially. Maybe someone will take the gamble. I know Arsenal fans have sometimes thrown his name into the conversation for maybe some squad depth. It could go here or it could go either way for him. But personally, I do feel like the top 6 might be a step up. Too much for him. I think maybe, a Conference League or an 8th top half team, maybe that's the kind of level we're talking. But in terms of going to a top 6 team, I do believe sometimes he does, leave a lot to be desired. A little bit up and down. Of course, in this Palace team, there's a lot of responsibility on him. But I was more impressed, if I'm being honest, with Olise on the right. I think Olise at 21 years old, he's got great ball retention. He's got flair to his game. The decision making is good. The vision is there. Great crossing. Really good switch of play. He's taking the set pieces. He's taking the corners. The only thing Olise right now needs to kick on to the next level is he needs the shooting. He needs to be able to strike the ball a lot cleaner more often. He needs to be able to add goals to his game as a right winger, but that will hopefully come as it goes on. He's still a very, very, very good young player. And you could say the same for Eze as well, adding goals to the team, etc. as well. I think he scored in the last match from an Olise cut back on the corner. Good quick thinking in their win. So those two players, they give Palace a little bit of hope for the future, but of course they need to give the output. So yeah, very mixed opinions on Zaha. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe not. You know what I'm saying? It depends on the situation. But yeah, Tottenham, like we were saying, they kept going. Second half, they put the foot on the pedal and continued to keep attacking. And then obviously more goals came. Son today, when you look at the stat line, you're going to look at Son and you're going to see a goal and you're going to see an assist. And actually, that's a big step up for Son. So let's say that, because he wasn't looking great in the first half. Tottenham on the whole, really in the first half, didn't deserve to be even a level. I think Crystal Palace, they had 9 shots to 2 on target. They should have probably taken the lead. Tottenham, they had a couple of efforts, but nothing too substantial. So you could have said that if maybe Crystal Palace had a Mitrovic or an Ivan Toney or someone serious up front, they could have taken the lead. And then you take a look at Tottenham's second half, and Son, he misses that 1v1. Harry Kane was starting to put the balls in behind. Obviously, Crystal Palace now chasing the game 2-0 down. They're really starting to come out. They're pushing up the pitch. They're starting to be a bit braver, even more brave than the first half. They've got a lot of attackers on this pitch at this point as well. And obviously, Vieira takes off Schlupp. He brings on Mateta, and that shifts the balance. That shifted the balance for me, and it shifted the balance for a lot of people that were watching as well, because it started to make the game a little bit open. And obviously Eze is more attack-minded. The balance in the midfield was changed a little bit because they're chasing the game. They've gone to a 4-2-3-1. Same formation, really, but Eze dropping into that double pivot, a lot more attack-minded. It leaves things a little bit more exposed, and Tottenham just took advantage of that. They moved forward, and obviously Doherty gets his goal set up by Son from Kane. And it really, that's where, for me, that's where Crystal Palace started to capitulate, because you could say the second goal is a really good pass and a really good finish from Kane. You could say the first goal is a great cross from Perisic, a really good header from Kane. Maybe the defending is a little bit weak. But the third and the fourth goal is where I can see, for me personally, Crystal Palace are starting to fall apart. Son sat Ward down after a load of defenders have been taken out, whether it's Klein, whether it's Anderson. He had to come across. Kane's dribbled past a few players, and it's just a chain of events that leads to Doherty putting it in. And then the fourth goal is ridiculous. You're seeing Gurhi, long ball. You've got to deal with that. You have to deal with that situation. It's a long ball. You're the defender. You're the one that's better in the air. You're dealing with Son. He's low on confidence. He had a really bad miss earlier on in that second half, and you don't deal with the situation, and it goes straight through. And unfortunately, Son, I say unfortunately because I'm a Chelsea fan, this. I ain't going to sugarcoat it. Son puts it in the back of the net and it's done, Ski. It's absolutely done. Anthony with the super chat, he says, seeing Fossil Football Spurs win makes me believe Chelsea will beat City for Arsenal to maintain the 8-point lead. Miracles happen. I don't know about that, bro. I'm not. Listen, I don't know what to expect from tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Just don't count on us. But at the same time, if you do, then some maybe something can happen. Man City are having some problems as well, maybe, but minor in comparison to Chelsea for sure. So yeah, but yeah, at that point for me, Crystal Palace are starting to capitulate. They're starting to show their issues in defence there, and it's a shame because I think Anderson had a great season last season. He had a wonderful shot that just went wide of the post in earlier on in the match as well. He's a good player. Gurhey, he had a great season last season. That's a bad mistake for him. He's obviously a young defender, but that's not good to see for him. Mitchell's out, so obviously Joe Ward on the left hand side, and Klein's aging as well. So maybe the fullbacks need to be changed out a little bit. And maybe a little bit, forward-thinking younger players in there. But yeah, just disappointed with Crystal Palace in the end because I feel like the 4-0, it doesn't reflect on them very well, considering the effort that they put in the first half, considering how well they played. But at the end of the day, you don't get points for playing well. You get points for putting the ball in the back of the net. And yet, Tottenham, in the end, they were clinical. You have to give them their credit for that. So it's fair play. It's fair game. Let's see what else is being said in the comments. In terms of Tottenham, is this them bouncing back as well? I wouldn't go that far to say because of the way Crystal Palace defended in that second half. I do think Tottenham still in the first half have got a lot of questions to be answered for. Brian Gill is definitely a really good addition to the team while they have these injuries. Still Conte does not want to play Spence. Abby and all the Tottenham fans will still be looking at that thinking what's going on. They're struggling, I think, to pay up for the right back that they were linked with as well, who had a 40 million release clause. I don't know what the plan is at right back because there were moments where I was watching Doherty earlier on in that game, and he before the goal, and I think he had a really good opportunity to have a cutback, and he decided to just smash it wide or smash it over. No composure, not what Perisic showed for the assist for Harry Kane, where he, calmed himself down, crossed the ball, clipped it in for Kane, and that was 1-0. Doherty was a lot more rash, a lot less composed and reckless. I don't know. I don't think he's the answer. Emerson Royale, I don't think he's the answer. Jed Spence, we don't see him enough. So I'm not sure what the plan is on that right side. But I was thinking in the first half, if you're going to keep with this wing-back system, if you're Conte, your wing-backs have got to be on point. They've got to be the difference makers in your team. They've got to be some of your best players. That's what that whole system is about. It's about the wing-backs creating overloads, and taking advantage of any space left. If you were to do build up down the left-hand side, you've always got that spare man on the right. Same as if you're doing the build up down the right-hand side, you've got that spare man on the left that you take advantage of. And granted, you can switch to play quickly and you've got somebody that's good at doing that, then you should be able to create those overloads. But if they're not good in the final third and they're not consistent, then there's no point having them. You may as well move to the 4. So in the end, Doherty gets his goal. In the end, Perisic gets his assist. But throughout the course of the 90, it's not consistent. So they either need to upgrade or, maybe change. But I don't know. We'll have to see what happens in North London derbies coming up. It's a big test for them. They're at home. They have a good record against Arsenal as well. A lot of people will bring that up. But I've never seen Tottenham fans so drained and lack of confidence going into a North London derby at home. Obviously, at the Emirates, they always falter and they always suffer. But at home, they have a strong record. And we saw that last season when it was critical. So we'll have to see if Tottenham turn up for that North London derby. If they play like they play in the first half of these games, then they're going to struggle. And Arsenal are quick starters. Arsenal are coming out the blocks in the first 10, 15 minutes. They're looking to impose themselves on matches. They're playing at a high tempo. They're looking to take teams apart and take them to the cleaners, really, in the first 15. And if Tottenham mirror that, match that up with poor first half performances or underwhelming first half performances, and they don't move the ball quickly and they're not progressive through the center. I was looking at half time. I was looking at their zones and where they're attacking, and it's all down the width, all down the wide positions in the first half from Tottenham. A lot of crosses into the box, nothing centrally, nothing really very potent or very progressive down the middle, and that's not surprising because it is Højbjerg and it was Skip today in that midfield as well. Listen, they're not exactly playmakers. They're not exactly dictators. You didn't even see that from Basuma, in the last match, and obviously Bentancur's not been in the team. I think he must be out injured. So, yeah, I think we'll have to see. Newcastle have shown the template, really organised, very defensive in terms of tracking the runners and making sure they cut off the passing lanes to Odegaard. They were brilliant. Very, very difficult performance to keep up for the entire 90 minutes. That's why they have the best defence in the league at the moment. with only 11 goals conceded. It will be interesting to see if Tottenham can do that. I personally don't think they can, based on what I'm watching. Still Crystal Palace had some opportunities tonight. They got the clean sheet, but that's because of the poor finishing. And also big credit to Lloris. Lloris made some massive saves towards the end of this match. Lloris made some big saves. 2 saves, I think, from inside the penalty box in the last 10 or 15 so minutes. Chances that maybe should have been taken. But again, just really big saves from Lloris after having some shaky moments in terms of his ball playing, again, slicing some clearances. But when you look at individuals in that Tottenham defence and you compare it to what you're talking about with Newcastle, it's just not as organised, it's not as structured, and it's not as secure. Individually, they're not as good. You're looking at, your Eric Dyers, who have been a bit wishy-washy. You're looking at your Davis when he comes back in, Tanganga, whoever. Even Romeo today looked shaky. Romeo had a couple of moments today where he looked shaky, whether it was, trying to prevent a corner and slipping over and having a mare or whatever else. So, and he's their best centre-back and clear, really far clear their best centre-back. So there's definitely some things to work on for Tottenham. It's not the perfect performance that the scoreline suggests, but they took advantage of Palace not being clinical, being a bit toothless up top. And in the end, they got really what they deserved, which was to lose that game, because you can't miss that many chances and think you're going to get away with it at the top level. Let's go through some more of your comments, what you guys are saying. Spurs are playing well, especially since they are not even playing in form. I think second half they definitely stepped it up. I'm impressed with the finishing. Very clinical with the finishing. I must say that. One game against the crap Palace, and suddenly they're back. Come on, Palace. Are useless with that Bum Vieira in charge. Listen, I think Palace are a very hit and miss team. They're 10th for a reason. Before this game, they were 10th. They're one of those teams that they can do anything. They can give you a shock. They can give you a performance, a really good performance. They can shock a team. They obviously beat Manchester City last season. I think they did the double over Tottenham. They gave problems to the big teams last season, and they finished around mid-table as well. That was with obviously Gallagher and a couple different players in that team. But Crystal Palace are one of those teams that people don't really put the microscope on. They don't put the microscope on them. Sorry, they don't analyze them in depth. It's kind of like one game to the next. If they win, cool, great. South London cage football, five-a-side, whatever you want to call them, that kind of feel to it. If they don't win and they lose, nobody really kicks off about it, because what do you really expect? You're expecting inconsistency, you're expecting ups and downs, you're expecting a 10th, 11th place finish. And what comes with that is some losses that you don't expect. They could lose at home to Everton, for say, and someone would be like, that's a bit surprising, but you'd move on from it. And the next thing you know, they can go and beat a top team. So yeah, they didn't do the double over Spurs. Who did they do the double over? Was it Spurs or was it Manchester City? I could have swore they'd done the double over one of the big 6 teams. Maybe it was Manchester City. Maybe I'm getting that wrong. But they did get points off Spurs. I think it was City. Okay. So they did the double over Manchester City. And they definitely took some points off of Tottenham for sure. So yeah, they fared pretty well in those matches, and caused a lot of problems. Obviously, Gallagher pressing from midfield in the number 10 and doing what they do there. So let's see. Kane remembering that he is a striker after all. Well, listen, Kane always gets goals. I looked through it a couple of weeks ago. I looked through his year-to-year, season in, season out. He's always floating in and around that 17 to 22, 23 goal mark range. One season he got 29, I think, as well. He's prolific. He gets his goals. People will question whether he gets the goals in the big moments. He doesn't. People will question whether he can handle the pressure at the highest level in the biggest moments, in the biggest games. At the moment, he hasn't. But in terms of your goal scoring in Premier League, and doing it on a week-to-week basis, and especially with a limited amount of chances. This is not a Tottenham team over the years that have had the most progressive managers, the most attacking managers. You think back to Mourinho, you think back to, Nuno, even though it's a couple of months, Conte. They've had very, defensive-minded or at least cautious managers tactically. They don't open up. They don't go for expansive attacking football ever since Pochettino. And he still manages to get the goals. He still manages to put the ball in the back of the net on a consistent basis. So you have to give it to him. But obviously he needs to kick on to the next level and show that he can add to the trophy cabinet as well, because, doing this is all well and good. But if you have nothing to show for it outside of a Premier League, goal scoring record sort of, award or whatever. I don't even know if you even get an award for breaking the all-time goal scoring. You get to go in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if you get any sort of award for it or whatever, but the Golden Boot or whatever, it's not going to be enough. You're going to want some trophies to go alongside that as well. So yeah, Kane is saying, just give us Gallagher back, I beg. Listen, you come put in a bid. Get your money up. Get your money up. Do you know what I'm saying? No one's stopping you, Kane. No one's stopping you. Get the money up. Get the money up. What else is being said? In a sense, he's more threatening when he plays on the shoulder of the last defender instead of dropping deep. I mean, today he did both roles. Today he did both roles. He got his goal. He got his goal. He got his goals, but he also created the chances. He still put the ball in behind for Son a couple of times. He dropped into those half spaces, held the ball up, did his turns, and still managed to play the ball in behind for obviously Son for a couple of chances. He should have really taken both of them. And he should have had a couple goals today. Son had some big chances. So yeah, he's doing a bit of both, and he has to do both, because when you look at that Tottenham midfield, listen, it does its due diligence. It does its work rate. It tries to win the ball back. It tries to progress the ball as well as it can. But that midfield is very, I don't know what to call it. It's very workmanlike. It's very Conte. It's not very creative. It's not very, you can go through the players, I guess, maybe an Eriksen at Manchester United over the season. Maybe Tottenham could have brought him in, even as an option off the bench, just to give you something different in a midfield when you need something off the bench, when you're not winning a match. Something like an Odegaard or some. These are the type of players that we're talking about here that Tottenham don't have in their team. They don't have a player that can drop in and create. So that's why Kane is doing that. He has to, because sometimes if Kane doesn't do that, he won't see the football. And Kane is one of those players that needs to be involved in the game. He's not an Erling Haaland who will stand up there and have 20, 15 touches and just put the ball in the back of the net and go about his business. He not only does Haaland not need to try and do something that he can't do, he has loads of chance creators at Manchester City who will do that for him. But at Tottenham, Harry Kane wants to be on the ball. He's that type of player. You don't have that type of passing ability and not want to be on the ball, switching the play, etc. Like a Wayne Rooney. I think that's the closest comparison I would make to what Kane is trying to do right now. Is when Harry Kane was when Wayne Rooney was playing in the 10. And when Rooney was playing in the 10, and Van Persie was up front, that's kind of what you get, a similar kind of thing. But Tottenham don't have a Van Persie, so they need Harry Kane up front. So he's doing a bit too much. He's doing everything. And yeah, at the moment he's being asked to do everything, and Tottenham need to figure that out. But listen, we're going to wrap up. It's been a brilliant show. Obviously, this is the review for the Crystal Palace Tottenham game, 4-0. Let us know more of your comments down below. Make sure you subscribe to DR Sports as well. Smash up the likes. And I will see you guys actually quite soon on a Friday, I think, for the Premier League preview. And obviously, Saturday football show is coming as well. So more content coming on the channel. And we appreciate all the support. You guys are smashing it. So much love. In a bit, people. Peace.